People always ask the same question when it comes to Bigfoot. If it's real, why has no one ever found a body? After decades of sightings, footprints, and footage, the absence of physical remains has become the biggest mystery of all. But what if the reason isn't nature, decomposition, or remote terrain? What if the bodies were never meant to be found? In this video, we're examining suppressed footage, quietly removed clips, and disturbing accounts that suggest something else may be happening after these encounters end. Watch closely, because the most unsettling part isn't what's shown on camera, it's what disappears afterward. And before we begin, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. For decades, the mystery surrounding Bigfoot has revolved around a single, stubborn question. If this creature is real, then why has no one ever recovered a body? Thousands of reported sightings span centuries, covering forests, mountains, swamps, and remote wilderness across North America and beyond. There are footprint casts, audio recordings, blurry videos, and eyewitness accounts from hunters, hikers, park rangers, and even law enforcement. Yet when it comes to physical remains, the trail goes cold every single time. Skeptics often offer simple explanations. They say bodies decompose quickly in the wild, scavenged by animals, and broken down by weather. Others argue Bigfoot lives in areas so remote that humans rarely reach them, and when one dies, it simply disappears into the forest like any other animal. On the surface, those explanations sound reasonable, but when you look closer, they start to fall apart. Large mammals leave evidence. Bears, elk, moose, and mountain lions all die in the wild, yet their bones are found, photographed, cataloged, and studied. Even animals far rarer than Bigfoot leave remains behind eventually. It's statistically improbable that a breeding population of large land-dwelling creatures could exist for generations without a single confirmed skeleton ever surfacing. The math simply doesn't work. This is where the conversation shifts from biology to behavior. Many researchers believe the key question isn't where the bodies are, but what happens immediately after death. If Bigfoot possesses higher intelligence than typical wildlife, it may actively avoid humans, even in death. Some theories suggest deliberate burial, group protection of remains, or migration away from populated areas when one is injured or dying. But there is another possibility that unsettles even longtime skeptics. What if bodies have been found but never revealed? What if recovery happens quietly, off camera, before authorities or civilians can document anything? Across decades, reports surface of incidents where something large was struck by vehicles, shot during confrontations, or discovered motionless, only for the scene to be quickly cleared, paperwork minimized, and evidence erased. These accounts rarely make headlines, but they repeat with eerie consistency. The absence of a body may not be proof of non-existence. Instead, it may be the result of intervention. And if that's true, then the biggest mystery surrounding Bigfoot isn't whether it exists, but who ensures that no proof ever remains. The next layer of this mystery comes from footage that surfaced briefly, gained attention, and then quietly disappeared. One of the most disturbing examples is a short video said to originate from a remote desert region overseas, far from North American forests where Bigfoot sightings usually occur. According to descriptions attached to the clip before it vanished, a military unit encountered a large unidentified humanoid creature and treated it as an immediate threat. When the footage begins, the creature is already motionless on the ground. Its body appears larger than an adult human, with unusually broad shoulders, a thick torso, and dense hair covering nearly every visible surface. Viewers pointed out what looked like a gunshot wound in the chest area. What unsettled people most wasn't just the body, it was the reaction of the soldiers surrounding it. Instead of fear, caution, or confusion, they appeared celebratory. Rifles were raised, some posed for the camera. There were no visible containment measures, no protective gear, no sense that they were dealing with something dangerous or unknown. Almost as quickly as the video spread, it began to disappear. Uploads were removed. Re-uploads appeared in lower resolution. Audio degraded. Eventually, only fragments remained, stripped of metadata and context. No extended footage of the encounter ever surfaced. No official explanation followed. And most importantly, there was no record of what happened to the body. Skeptics argue the video was staged or misidentified, pointing to the poor quality and lack of verification. But that explanation raises its own questions. Fake videos typically spread unchecked, analyzed endlessly, and debunked publicly. This one didn't follow that pattern. Instead, it was quietly erased, leaving behind only compressed copies and second-hand descriptions. If the footage showed nothing unusual, why was it handled with such urgency? And if it did show something real, then the most important moment wasn't the recording itself, but what happened after the camera stopped. The body didn't end up in a museum, a lab, or a public report. It vanished. And this wouldn't be the last time that pattern appeared. One of the most unsettling pieces of alleged evidence doesn't come from the modern internet era at all. It predates viral uploads, comment sections, and instant debunking. For decades, it circulated quietly among researchers as footage that shouldn't exist. The clip is grainy, yellowed, and fixed at a single angle, as if recorded by an old security camera inside a remote facility or storage site. There is no narration, no timestamps, no identifying marks of any kind. In the footage, several men enter the frame wearing dark suits or jackets. They have no visible uniforms, insignia, or rank markings, yet the way they move is precise and deliberate, like people executing a rehearsed task. Between them is a stretcher carrying a massive, human-shaped form. Even through the low resolution, the proportions are wrong. The body appears too broad across the shoulders, too thick through the torso, and far too large to be an injured person. At one point, a man steps forward and pulls a heavy blanket over the form, completely concealing it from view. The gesture is calm, practiced, and strangely final. Seconds later, the clip ends. There is no footage of transport, no arrival point, and no explanation of where the body is being taken. Those who have studied this clip argue that it was never meant to prove Bigfoot exists. Instead, they believe it accidentally revealed something far more disturbing: procedure. There is no excitement, no panic, no hesitation. The men behave as if this is not the first time they've done this, and not the last. Whatever lies under that blanket is treated less like a discovery and more like a liability. If the footage were fake, critics argue, it would likely show exaggeration or theatrics. Instead, what makes it so disturbing is how mundane it feels. This looks like cleanup, not confrontation. And that raises an uncomfortable possibility. If a creature like Bigfoot were found near a sensitive area, revealing it publicly could cause chaos, fear, and questions no one wants to answer. The simplest solution wouldn't be denial, it would be removal. No records exist tying this footage to a location, date, or agency. It surfaced, circulated quietly, and then faded into obscurity. But it introduced a chilling idea that refuses to go away. Bigfoot bodies may not be missing because they're never found, but because when they are, they're quietly covered, carried out of frame, and erased from history. One of the most controversial pieces of alleged evidence comes from a video that surfaced years ago, featuring a man calmly standing beside what he claimed was a preserved Bigfoot specimen kept in a freezer. According to his account, the creature had been recovered from a swamp in the early 1950s and stored away from public view ever since. He stated a specific date, a specific location, and spoke with a level of confidence that unsettled even skeptical viewers. The body shown in the footage appeared massive, with a thick torso, broad shoulders, and dense hair covering nearly every inch of skin. The proportions looked wrong for a human. The legs were heavy, the arms long, and the muscle density, especially around the hips and thighs, appeared extreme. What disturbed viewers most was that one of the creature's legs had been removed, severed above the ankle, and stored separately. The foot, shown briefly, appeared smaller than expected, creating an unsettling mismatch with the rest of the body. The narrator claimed this was intentional, intentional. He suggested younger or smaller specimens had more human-like proportions, and that foot size increased dramatically with age. He also alleged that tissue samples from similar specimens had been tested repeatedly, only to return inconclusive results that matched no known species. No lab reports were shown. No third-party verification was provided. Skeptics dismiss the video as an elaborate hoax, but supporters focus on a different question. If this was fake, why did it vanish so quickly? The video was removed, re-uploaded in fragments, and eventually degraded beyond clear analysis. If such a specimen truly existed, locking it away in cold storage would be the most effective way to hide it. Silent, preserved, and slowly forgotten as time erased the trail. Another piece of footage that continues to disturb viewers doesn't show violence, discovery, or confrontation. Instead, it shows confinement. The video surfaced briefly online before being removed, leaving behind only degraded copies passed quietly through forums and private archives. From the moment it begins, it feels wrong, not because of what the creature is doing, but because of where it is. The clip appears to have been recorded inside a controlled indoor environment, possibly a warehouse or holding facility. The lighting is dim and uneven, and the camera angle is tight, as if filming was restricted or discouraged. Behind a set of metal bars sits a large, hairy figure. It is unmistakably humanoid in shape, but far larger than an average person. The shoulders are broad, the arms long, and the body is wrapped in thick, dark hair. What unsettles viewers most is the creature's behavior. It isn't raging or attempting to escape. It isn't aggressive. Instead, it sits hunched forward, head lowered, with one massive hand partially covering its face. The posture feels protective, almost ashamed, as if it understands it should not be seen. There are no visible restraints beyond the bars, yet the creature makes no attempt to move toward the camera. There are no voices in the clip, no laughter, no commentary. Whoever is filming remains silent, and no one enters the frame. The atmosphere feels routine, procedural, and disturbingly calm. This is not presented as a discovery. It feels like documentation. Observers have pointed out that the lack of urgency suggests familiarity, as though the people involved have handled situations like this before. No information accompanies the footage. No date, no location, no explanation of how the creature was captured or what happened afterward. Like so many other clips tied to Bigfoot, it ends abruptly and disappears from public platforms shortly after gaining attention. For skeptics, this is where the line is drawn. They argue confinement footage is easier to fake than discovery, but believers point to one chilling detail. If someone wanted to convince the public Bigfoot exists, they would show action, movement, aggression, proof. This video does the opposite. It shows containment. And if it's real, then the most frightening implication isn't that Bigfoot exists, but that it can be captured, held, and quietly forgotten. Some of the strangest Bigfoot accounts don't come from the deep wilderness at all. They come from roads, highways cutting through forests, empty back roads where headlights are the only light for miles. Over the years, a quiet pattern has emerged involving collisions, incidents where drivers claim they struck something upright, massive, and undeniably not human. And almost every time, the aftermath looks the same. One widely circulated clip is said to have been recorded by an RV driver late at night on a remote forest road. According to the account attached to the footage, the driver was intoxicated and filming casually when a large shape suddenly appeared directly in the headlights. The figure was tall, covered in hair, and standing upright in the roadway. There was no time to swerve. The impact was violent. The camera shook. A heavy thud echoed through the cabin. But what happened next is what unsettled viewers. After the collision, the road appeared empty. There was no visible body, no movement fleeing into the trees, just an open stretch of pavement illuminated by headlights. The driver reportedly called police, admitted to drinking, and waited in panic. When officers arrived, the official report listed only a minor accident. No animal, no obstruction, no follow-up investigation. This isn't an isolated story. Similar reports surface again and again. Drivers describe hitting something tall tall and solid, sometimes hearing screams or seeing movement, only for the scene to be cleared before daylight. In several cases, witnesses claim roads were briefly closed, explanations were vague, and no photographs were taken by authorities. Whatever was struck never appears in any official records. Skeptics argue these are drunken hallucinations or wildlife misidentifications, but the consistency is troubling. If a bear, moose, or elk were hit, there would be blood, remains, and documentation. Instead, these cases end in silence. For Bigfoot researchers, road incidents are especially disturbing because they occur in public spaces. They create witnesses, timelines, and paper trails. And yet, every time, the evidence vanishes. No bodies, no photos, no answers. If something is being removed after these collisions, then the road may not be where Bigfoot disappears, but where cleanup begins. Not all of the most unsettling Bigfoot footage takes place at night. In fact, some of the clips that refuse to fade from memory are disturbing precisely because they happen in broad daylight. Clear visibility removes the comfort of shadows and misidentification, and that's why these encounters are so difficult to dismiss. One widely discussed video is said to have been recorded on a snow-covered forest road in Alaska. The footage takes place during the day, with bright light reflecting off the ground and dense pine forest lining both sides of the road. The people filming were reportedly driving slowly when they suddenly noticed two massive figures ahead. One was unmistakably a full-grown black bear. The other stood upright, covered in dark hair, towering over it. What followed looked less like a wildlife encounter and more like a fight. The upright figure charged, grappling with the bear as both animals rose onto their hind legs. The size difference was immediate and unsettling. The humanoid figure's arms appeared longer, its shoulders broader, its movements more controlled. Inside the vehicle, panic erupted. Voices shook, someone screamed, yet no one dared open a door or honk the horn. The confrontation lasted only seconds before both figures crashed out of view into the trees. The clip ends shortly after, cutting off before any conclusion can be drawn. No follow-up footage exists. No reports surfaced of injured bears or unusual animal activity in the area. And once again, the video itself began to disappear, removed and re-uploaded in increasingly poor quality. Researchers argue that daylight footage like this is harder to fake convincingly, especially when another known animal is involved for scale. Skeptics counter that perspective, and distance can be deceiving. But the real discomfort comes from what happens next, or rather, what doesn't. There are no official investigations, no press releases, no explanation. Daylight encounters should be the easiest to verify. Instead, they vanish, just like the rest. And that raises a chilling possibility. If Bigfoot can appear clearly in daylight and still leave no trace behind, then whatever controls the aftermath doesn't rely on darkness. It relies on silence. As the footage and reports pile up, one pattern continues to unsettle even skeptical observers. Behavior that suggests awareness. Not animal instinct, not random movement, awareness. In several alleged trail camera clips and nighttime recordings, the figures don't simply wander into frame, they appear to recognize they are being observed. One commonly discussed trail camera video shows a large deer lying motionless along a forest path at night. Moments later, a tall, upright figure enters the frame, followed closely by a second, noticeably smaller one. The larger figure pauses, lowers its head toward the deer, then suddenly looks directly into the camera. The eye shine reflects straight back at the lens. Almost immediately, it turns toward the smaller figure, makes a brief gesture, and both retreat into the darkness. What disturbs researchers isn't the shape or size of the figures, it's the sequence, the pause, the eye contact, the apparent communication. Many animals react to trail cameras with confusion or curiosity, but they don't typically alter behavior in response to being filmed. In this case, the movement appears deliberate, as if the presence of the camera triggered a decision. Similar behavior appears in other alleged encounters. Campers describe feeling watched without seeing movement. Glowing eyes remain fixed just outside flashlight range. adjusting position only when the observer moves. In one widely shared tent cam incident, a massive shape presses down on the tent roof, applying enough force to bend the supports, then retreats without tearing or attacking. The behavior feels controlled, restrained, and purposeful. If these accounts are exaggerated or misinterpreted, they still point to something important. The witnesses consistently describe intelligence, not chaos. And if the subject understands surveillance, that changes everything. It explains the lack of clear footage. It explains avoidance of populated areas. And it may explain why bodies are never found. An intelligent species wouldn't leave its dead exposed. It wouldn't allow its young to be photographed. And it wouldn't behave like ordinary wildlife. If Bigfoot is real and self-aware, then the greatest survival trait it possesses may not be strength or size, but the ability to disappear on purpose. The final question isn't whether these clips are real or fake. It's why the pattern behind them never changes. Every story ends the same way: partial footage, missing context, no physical remains, and then silence. Not just from authorities, but from the evidence itself. If Bigfoot were a random animal, even a rare one, mistakes would happen. Bodies would be found. Clear footage would slip through. Bones would surface. Yet decade after decade, nothing ever does. One theory keeps resurfacing among researchers who've studied these cases for years. Bigfoot may not be disappearing by accident. It may be cleaning up after itself. Intelligent social animals already show death-related behavior. Elephants guard remains. Primates remove bodies from exposed areas. If a larger, more advanced hominid existed, it's reasonable to assume it would go even further, concealing its dead, dismantling evidence, and relocating remains to places humans never search. Then there's the darker possibility. Some footage and testimonies don't suggest natural concealment, but intervention, restricted zones, rapid response, anonymous men without insignia, videos that vanish within hours. If a non-human intelligent species were confirmed, the consequences would be immediate and global: environmental protections, land disputes, religious shockwaves, and panic. Suppression would be the easiest path forward. That leaves us with an unsettling middle ground. Maybe Bigfoot avoids us. Maybe someone else avoids letting us see it. Or maybe both are true at the same time. So when people ask why no Bigfoot body has ever been recovered, the answer may be simple and terrifying. Bodies were never meant to be found. Not because Bigfoot doesn't exist, but because disappearance itself may be the most consistent evidence it leaves behind.